All right, you just joined an MMA gym or a boxing gym. It's time to start getting some cardio and some combinations in, but the first thing you gotta do is learn how to wrap your hands. I have another hand wrap video that was more traditional. This is exactly how I wrap my hands every single day. There's a link to 2 different products in the description for you guys so you can learn how to wrap your hands exactly like I do. Now, my favorite hand wraps on the planet, bar none, I've been using them for a decade now, are these Winning, I think they're VL-B on Amazon. You can get them, they're a little bit more expensive, but what I like about them is you can see they're very thin. You can almost basically see through them, and they're a lot longer. It's almost like a Mexican style hand wrap. If you guys are familiar with boxing lingo, Mexican style hand wraps, they don't come with loops, they don't come with Velcro, you basically wrap your hands and they look like gauze. So these are the closest I have found on the market for Mexican style feeling hand wraps. They're extra long, they're extra thin, so you can get a lot of good protection without the extra bulk. Second thing, knuckle guards. There's a lot of knuckle guards on the market. As you can see, 4 finger holes, put your hand through there, give you nice protection from that second knuckle up to that strike pad where you're actually gonna be punching. And with the long, thin hand wraps, I can get good protection plus a lot of absorption on your knuckles if you're like me and you punch really hard. So we got a link to these as well. These are actually Evergel hand wraps from Everlast that I cut off the wrist and modified a little bit. That's what we do. When you find something, modify it, make it better or make it to your liking. But a link to both of those products in the description. Now, these are already wrapped up. These have Velcro at the very end, but we're starting with the loop. First thing I do, make sure that knuckle guard is where it needs to be as far back as possible. Stick the thumb through right here. So you can see the crease and the fold right there. That's gonna go down on the wrist. Once you get it right to where you want it right there. And I like to make it nice and tight on the wrist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the wrist with my fist clenched. So it was nice and tight. Now I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna go up to that second knuckle, not the first knuckle, but the second knuckle, because you gotta remember, I want this fabric over these finger holes, because then we're gonna pull that fabric in between. 1, 2, 3. It's almost like I painted it. Ready? You see all the gray? 1, 2, 3. Now I painted the entire thing. Now I do one last one to almost cover my entire hand. There's a little triangle right there. Now, from the wrist, we're going up through the fingers, making it somewhat taut, but not crazy tight. I don't want to pull this all the way across because then it gets too tight. I make it somewhat tight there. I squeeze. Now I stop myself from pulling and I just layer it across. Open, somewhat taut, squeeze, layer it across. Somewhat taut, squeeze, layer it across. So now you can see we're starting to look really good here. And as you can see here too, there's no fabric here on the palm of my hand. You put fabric in the palm of your hand, you're just gonna feel like you're holding a wet washcloth in there. Then you put it inside the glove. Then before you know, your hands are not fully clenched and you can't make a fist. So there's your 3 through your fingers. Now I'm going back through one more time. And remember, this is the most important part right here. I'm not pulling it through and making it really tight, because by the time I go tight here, there's way too much pressure on that knuckle in between my pinky and my ring finger. I go here, make it somewhat taut, squeeze. Now I can't pull this anymore because the grip of my hand is not letting me pull. Layer it across, just lay it across. Once again, squeeze, lay it across, squeeze, lay it across. Now we give the thumb a little bit of love. I already got the loop there, so it's already somewhat got some structure and structural integrity because of the loop. Now I go thumb 1, back around the wrist, thumb 2, around the wrist, thumb 3, around the wrist. Now, got a little bit more fabric left over, and now we just layer it on to the wrist. This is what my hand wrap looks like right here. Once again, fabric here, but no fabric down here. I even do this number, pull it up toward toward the crease of the fingers here so I can squeeze it. It's almost like a bar, squeeze it, but not a ton of fabric here. If you have fabric here, it's just there to cover your hand, but it's not giving you any kind of structural integrity. Plus, if you go too far down here, you can squeeze this part of the hand too much, which is not what you want. You want it to be tight. You want it to be tight when you make a fist here, which makes it a little bit tighter here when you make a fist on top of these knuckles, making sure all 4 of those bones, 1, 2, 3, 4, have a layer of padding over top of them and on the outside and inside, but not too tight. That's why when we went through the fingers, we squeezed, so you can't make it any tighter, because if you start pulling and pulling, it's just gonna be way too tight. If you're like me, you've wrapped your hands the wrong way, and 10 minutes in, 20 minutes into a workout, you gotta take your gloves off, take your wraps off, because your hand went numb or it starts tingling. So this is my preferred way to wrap my hands. I've been wrapping it like this since I lived in Vegas, 2011. My boxing coach, Gil Martinez, taught me how to do it. He taught me the technique of between the fingers, squeeze, between the fingers, squeeze. Remember, these hand wraps, the winning hand wraps, and these knuckle guards are linked below. This is not an ad, this is just what I use. This is what would be in my bag, so to speak. I've been using this same apparatus and this same setup for the last decade. So I hope this helped protect your hands so you can throw bombs. God bless, I'll see you at the top.